Ouch, ouch, kitty cat. Ouch, 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 kitty cat. Ouch, 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 kitty cat. She wants to use me as a pincushion.
Well, welcome to Mostly Fictional Tales. I am your host, Rathgar, and today, returning, because he's a nice guy and he's pleasant to speak with, my good friend Greg Washington. There we go, Greg. I've got you on deck here. We are actually running here. We have overcome technical adversity in order to arrive at recording bliss, the nirvana of the land of recording. How's it feel? I know it feels good to me, Greg. You know you love to see it.
Well, let's go. Let's do it. Let's jazz it up.
We're today. I think we're going to be talking about jazz music. But Greg, I think we're going to need to set the stage here. First off, whenever somebody brings an expert on to a show. Here, let me make that.
Not sure I'm an expert.
Somebody brings an expert.
I'm a lover, not a.
Well, you're my
jazz
resident expert. You're a resident jazz lover. You okay. Will suffice in my estimation today as my expert witness. The court of Mostly Fictional Tales accepts you as being more knowledgeable than I. So we can go and talk about that.
The bottom line is I'm a jazz lover, and I also play the most important instrument in the whole ensemble. I play ears. And by the way, if you want to really understand jazz perfectly, you understand it's basically call and response. It gets better and better when the audience responds to what they hear. Jazz is basically a series of sounds that are put into synchronization with the drum that basically is a timekeeper, and it has an overlay of other instruments that basically can move in between those different rhythms and sounds to do their own things individually. And that's what jazz comes down to. It's sounds. It's sounds that sound good. And unlike the European music, which America basically embraced before the slaves got here, it's something that you can actually improvise on. And it tells a story. And jazz has a real long history that goes right straight starting in Africa. In fact, some of the original instruments that were played with jazz were, believe it or not, the banjo, the drum. The European music was basically played in a way that it was organized, and the drum had a very minor role. And the drum basically is the foundation of what we're going to be talking about as we talk more about sounds. And so I summarize it. Music is my mistress, which said that's Duke Ellington talking. That was his theme. Okay.
That's my elevator. Do you actually play a musical instrument yourself? I don't.
Can I play ears?
Oh, just ears.
Okay.
Well, that's an important. We have established that is a very important part of the ensemble.
It's very much so.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean when I say call and response? Do you understand what that means?
When I think of call and response, I think of kind of two different things. One is, kind of in the tradition of Catholics, they have as part of the Mass.
Mantra.
Mm-hmm, they have a pre-scripted mantra where the person that's giving a sermon is a priest or deacon or whoever it is. I don't know all the call and responses because I'm not Catholic, but my dad was.
Well, here's the big difference, though. With jazz, basically, jazz music, nothing is always played the same every time. And you really know you have things going on when you're playing something that people think they know the tune, they know the rhythm, they know the beat, and they do something that's very distinctive, and then they respond to it. Okay. And the musicians basically respond back with even getting better and fine-tuning it. And maybe it move into a different groove, unlike the Catholic Church, because you can't move into a different groove once the priest makes a speech.
I've long joked that jazz, that nobody actually likes jazz. That people only like to pretend to like jazz because it makes them seem sophisticated. With me today is Greg Washington. His known alias is the Hat, because when he is spotted at various functions, he's always got a distinctive hat to share to people. That is my understanding, and you know what? I respect the Hat. You know, when somebody has a dome that is like this, you know, there's no hiding that there's not a lot of hair up there. So, you know, you got to have a good hat. That's my opinion. You just got to have a good hat. And you know these flat caps, I like them. I've seen you wear a flat cap. Tell me, Greg, am I crazy here? Well, no, you do. Yes, you're very nice. Yes, I am crazy. However, I'm not that kind of crazy.
Well, this hat serves a purpose. It basically has pins from different jazz festivals I've attended in the last almost 50 years, and it was a tradition for jazz concerts and meetings and so forth, particularly concerts, that a pin was usually memorialized of that event, and every time you went someplace in a jazz concert, you get a pin. So over the years,
like a badge, much like tour ribbons. That's it. Much like tour ribbons. It's a fabulous thing. And you've got easily. I'm looking at your hat over there, Greg, and I see at least 15 pieces of flair on there. 15 badges. How many are on there?
I have no idea, but it's probably more like about 40 badges. And this is only one hat, but the really official hat is a very large hat that's has probably another couple of hundred, but has maybe, I would guess, maybe probably 100 pins on it. Yeah.
Okay, that starts to sound. I'm wondering, is that now a little hazardous? Now that it's got so many little bits of metal on there, or you wonder if you're going to trip and fall and then your head's going to wind up a pincushion.
Well, you know what? You got a good point there. All the above is true, by the way.
I'm wondering if if in your opinion the danger of such a fate is worth the glory of so many jazz pins.
Yes, it is. It is a worth all the joy. In fact,
fabulous. Let's make an adjustment and let's go on a field trip.
Well, let me kind of give you the history of my pins. There's 3 or 4 jazz festivals I've been to, every single one of them. And I've collected for that series of events that take place every year. One's called the Monterey Jazz Festival, which is the mother of all jazz festivals, actually.
So the Monterey Jazz Festival is a festival that you go to very often.
They hold it every year in Monterey. It's a 3-day festival. It's the longest running jazz festival in the world. Then there's some of the artists that will be appearing this year. The Fun Festival. It was organized by a guy by the name of Jimmy Lyons, who was a disc jockey out of San Francisco, and he and Dave Brubeck and the Rotary Club of Monterey.
I know that name, Dave Brubeck.
You know that name? There you go.
I know that name.
Yep. Well, that's the history of that festival. I've been to 50 of those, and then there's another festival.
50. You said 50.
50.
That is quite the commitment.
Well, it's been in play for almost 65 years now.
Well, there we go.
I haven't been going to all of them. Then the other big festival that I've been to is one that's been discontinued. It's called the Playboy Jazz Festival. It's now called the Hollywood Bowl Jazz Festival.
Okay, the Hollywood Bowl Jazz Festival.
I've attended about 35 of those festivals, and it has a pin for every year that they've done and they've been there. Then there's another festival I go to called the Long Beach Jazz Festival, which I just came back from. It's about 35 years old. Actually, it's about 39 years old because it was organized as the Queen Mary Jazz Festival in Long Beach, and it changed its name to the Long Beach Jazz Festival about 5 years after it was produced. So I've been about 39 of those festivals. And there's been a couple other small festivals that popped up. So those are
So
the
locally, you can say that if there's a jazz festival, you will find out about it and you will be able to attend. That's what I'm hearing.
well.
Is that this is
Now
an
that,
important thing to you?
well, here's I'm gonna give you an interesting twist on it. At the time that I was going to these festivals, people they thought I was a freak because what's a jazz festival? They weren't having any jazz festivals many years ago. Now every city in Los Angeles and in California has a jazz festival, so it's a very common affair. So I don't even try to attend the upshots that have popped up recently because there's too many of them.
Okay,
But
okay.
it's a privilege to be able to say that the original jazz festivals, which were the Monterey Jazz Festival, which was a play on another festival called the Newport Jazz Festival, which was organized before it by a guy by the name of George Wein, who became the impresario of jazz festivals around the world, subsequent to him organizing the Newport Jazz Festival and also having a hand in the organizing the Monterey Jazz Festival. And it's covering a lot of territory right there, but I'm trying to give you just a big picture. Now, answering your question, I don't try to make all of them.
Okay.
I have my three favorites, which were the originals, and that's where I pretty much stay. And I will attend occasionally one other festival called the Central Avenue Jazz Festival, which has quite a story we can talk about in more depth at another time.
Recently, I chatted with a musician friend of mine, Timothy John Ramirez. TJR is a musician, rock and roll musician, pianist, composer, and music blogger. And he does a show that he produces with his partner Robert Kinsler, a show called Music Still Is Good, and he would have a lot to say about this topic. One of the things that that I found noteworthy that Tim had mentioned is that one of the things that we find classic examples of any music from any genre are the examples of the things that are special, that have turned the test of time, that want to be listened to by people over and over again. And one of the frustrating things for me, with the style of jazz is that it's so improvisational that when a great, beautiful vibe, rhythm, and melody combination come together, that might be a transitory event that will never be heard again. And to me, that's a little too frustrating as having that baked in as the core idea behind jazz. It's well, if I'm going to play you something that's really good, I'm never going to play it again because, that was a moment in time, like a butterfly, and it's gone.
That is a challenge.
I find that just a little frustrating. But, you had mentioned earlier about Dave Brubeck. That name is classic because the examples that get played of his work over and over again are things that are these magical. I've got it playing right in my head right now. His the ba da 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 ba da da ba da da.
Big Five.
It's catchy. It's in my head. It's right now, but to me, there are so few instances of that in jazz because the pathway to get there was so transitory that it'll never happen again unless somebody is recording every single jazz performance there ever was. So I love sitting there and listening to the live aspect is probably the thing that as recorded music and recorded jazz is such an incredible loss, because the live aspect, which you were talking about earlier, that call and response, the musician putting out a vibe, hearing the audience ooh and respond to that, and then they know, hey, I've got something good here, let's keep following it and see where it goes, and everybody's on board with that, and there's a communal spirit of in the audience for that kind of thing. That, I guess, that am I saying to you what you were meaning earlier?
Yes, you are. You really are saying.
Oh, good.
Well, my basic background in music, and there's only really one kind of music, and that's called good music. One thing about jazz is if you listen to it completely, it pretty much is ubiquitously occupied all of our minds when we walk into hotels and restaurants, in venues, get on an elevator. It's the kind of the universal solvent for music lovers. And what happens with the problem that you present is that when something is done extremely well, it's memorialized and put into a record. Now, I come from a classical background originally. My grandfather and my family were classical music people. And I got tired of hearing Beethoven and all of the great musicians, orchestras of the past over and over played the exact same way. So I like the variation. So I think probably if you kind of have to kind of join the club, and I think that's probably what you're saying. If you join a club and you actually know what the basic fundamentals of great songs are, you can appreciate variations. But if you're walking into a venue and they're playing something you haven't heard before and it's brand new and it's not good, or it doesn't really knock you over at the moment, you wind up just being a trash can.
I find that similar thing is present in some of the electronic music that the young folks like to listen to these days.
Yes.
Things that are in there is a subgenre of electronica music called vaporwave, but it's not something that drives me. However, I really like higher energy type of music. In whenever I'm listening to jazz, I'm wanting to hear something kind of fun and groovy, and but with electronica music, I really like breakbeat. An example, the Crystal Method is one of my favorites, where every about 3 to 4 measures they're throwing in some extra layer of sound and taking something away, so that they are molding the sonic journey in this one specific adventure. I just rather love. And there you have it, folks, a journey through jazz festivals, their history, and the magic of live music. It's been a pleasure sharing this episode with you. Remember, the world of jazz is ever-changing, just like life itself. You keep listening, keep exploring, and who knows, maybe one day we'll see you at a jazz festival too. If you like what I do and you need to see me do more of it, you can help. Like, share, and subscribe on this video. Comment. I know it doesn't look like it does anything, but I promise you it does. I need some difference makers. Head on over to Patreon and support me there. The link is in the description below. I can't do this without you. Captain Rathgar here, reminding you all, be good. But if you cannot be good, don't be caught.